In Vineland's gang-riddled armpits, 67 miles of farms, projects, and Philly bleed. Proactive hunts turning domestic calls into an incident where a suspect tried to take his weapon only to be saved by his canine. From pill-shadowed poverty to vindicated heroism for his canine, which was only the 9th in U.S. history to be awarded the Distinguished Service Medal, Sergeant Louis Platania bears the unbreakable bite. Vineland Canine Sergeant Louis Platania's saga exposed. This is his story. Can you introduce yourself for me, please?
My name is Louis Platania. I'm a retired sergeant from Vineland City, New Jersey Police Department. Served there from 2008 to 2024.
Okay. Louis, give me an idea of what how Vineland PD is. How big is the department and what areas are you covering? Because as we talk about your story, I think it's fair to say some people in law enforcement get called a shit magnet.
Yeah. Or a black cloud.
Black cloud?
Yeah.
And
I'm both of those.
Yeah, boy, you really run the gamut. So give me an idea how paint a picture for me as we start to get into the story.
Sure. So we're a town. It's about 67,000 people, 67 square miles in Cumberland County, New Jersey, South Jersey, down in the armpit of New Jersey, we like to call it. We're right between Atlantic City and Philadelphia. So we get traffic from both sides of the state. So Philadelphia, Atlantic City, very diverse town, very rural in the east. A lot of farms, projects, housing, low-income housing, a lot of gang violence in the center city area. So it's pretty diverse.
So you get a lot of action.
A lot of action
with the
yeah.
PD.
If you're not looking for it, it's there. If you're looking for it, it's there.
And you were definitely proactive in looking for it.
Early on in my career, I was very proactive and just looking for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me how. I want you to tell me a little bit about your childhood because I think it's very relevant to the story and it'll come into play later on. But what was your home life like?
So when I was a real young kid, I had three siblings, or I was one of three siblings. I was the oldest. Me and my brother Tommy and my sister Jessica. My parents were low income. We were pretty poor. My dad worked 3 jobs just trying to make ends meet. Real hard worker. You know, he's my hero when I was a kid, just like most dads are to their children. Or it's a hero. It wasn't until I was getting a little older I recognized the fact that my hero was pretty big into prescription drugs. Early on in my life, before the RX numbers were following people, stealing prescription pads, writing out scripts, for oxys or percs. It was just a way of life back then. If you had diarrhea, here's a pill for that. If you had a headache, here's a pill for that. There was always a pill for something when I was growing up. This is why I don't take pills now.
Yeah, so there was actually occasions, like, can you talk about the incident where they basically stick you in an air duct?
Yeah, so I don't know how old I was, but I was small enough to fit through a box like this, an air conditioner duct, to open up a door inside of an apartment complex. And him and his buddy went in. They kind of ransacked the place. Lo and behold, it was their drug dealer, and they went in there to steal all this stuff while he was out of the house. Yeah. So I was the burglar that got to go through the door and unlock it for him.
Did you kind of realize what was going on at that age?
It's just all part of life at that point. You know, growing up at an early young age like that, a lot of my dad's friends, who I considered my uncles, passed away from narcotics. So my dad, when I was real young, rolled up a joint in front of me and my brother, and he sparked it up and he said, "Smell this." He's like, "Stay away from this." It was marijuana, obviously, because if you try this, you're going to get into other stuff too. So, and he told me, "Don't try and do drugs, because if you come home high, I'll know what you're on, because I've done every drug there is to do." So this is a lesson learned from me at 9, 10 years old, for me and my little brother, and we're smelling marijuana and saying, "Stay away from it." So he was painting a picture, stay away from drugs, even though he was giving me a drug for diarrhea, or not that he gave us Percocets for anything, but that was just how I was brought up.
But it's interesting. He's telling you to stay away. So tell me about in your brain as 9 years old, and then later on as you're growing up. He's telling you to stay away, but yet conversely, you're watching a lot of this stuff go on.
Yeah.
So how does that affect you? Do you, because most people would kind of revert back to what the parents do.
Yeah.
So how does it affect you?
So at an early age, it was just normal to see this stuff. You know, my parents on a weekend, they would have their friends over, go upstairs and stay in your room and don't come down. Well, they're down there getting high, you know, what I found out later on. But I think the first time I realized that my hero was no longer what he said he was, it kind of hurt my feelings as I looked out the window when one of his friends pulled up and I saw him sharing a cigarette. Well, it's not a cigarette you're sharing a joint. That thing you told me to stay away from, you're using. And it really rocked me to the core. I remember like it was yesterday, I was really upset about that. I didn't tell my brother, didn't tell nobody else. I just kind of peeked through the window myself. But when I was 12 and about 14 years old, my mom's lungs collapsed for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. She had MS and lupus. They sent me up to stay with my grandparents. And I love going up to my grandparents' house. They lived up in central Jersey, just outside of Six Flags. And they were the first house before you got to a wildlife management area where you can go hunting. I wasn't into hunting, but he got me into it that summer. And after that, I was hooked. And instead of going to parties and going out with my friends, I was going up there and deer hunting or looking for deer or looking for pheasants. So my grandpa I credit him for keeping me out of that loop of going down the partying aspect when I was in high school and kind of staying true to just the outdoors.
What did you want to do? Did you have any sense of what you wanted to do growing up? I mean, a lot of kids are like, hey, I want to be a rock star, sports star, whatever else. But as you started growing up, did you have any sense of what you wanted to do?
I assumed I was going to be into construction just like my dad. School was never my strong suit. I was a B&C student in high school, got to college and realized that this is a lot harder, so I kind of like failed out academically. But before that, when I was in high school, I was thinking about going to the military, and my grandfather was wounded in the Korean War, and he kind of talked me out of it and said, listen, I have friends that are troopers and police officers. They have a pretty good thing, 25 years and you're done. If you get in early, you'll retire at an early age and you'll get a pension out of it. So when I went into college, I took up criminal justice, and I was like, I credit him for making me go that route. Even though at an early age, my dad was on the other side of the law, he always told me to respect police. You know, I remember at a young age watching a police officer in Buna rip a guy out of a car at a parade, and I was like, that's pretty freaking cool. You know, he wasn't listening and he got dealt with, and I was like, wow.
What age do you decide law enforcement's what you're going to do?
Probably about 17.
And why? Why?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Going around seeing police officers and my grandpa telling me, hey, listen, you know, do this job. And I was a scrawny kid. I didn't start getting any muscle until after high school. I graduated 6'1", 140 pounds soaking wet. You know, I was pretty scrawny. Then I start working out pretty regularly, and then I got some friends that are police officers, and I'm like, you know, maybe this is really my route that I want to go. So I never did drugs. You know, I drank alcohol, obviously, but I stayed away from drugs my entire life. And my head was to the ground, and that's what I'm going to do. That's what I want to do. But in the early 2000s, it was really hard to get a job as a police officer because it seemed like everybody wanted that job. And I tried with the state police several times. It just didn't work out. Put in applications all over the place. And it wasn't until the spring of 2006 that Seattle City Police Department hired me when I put in for summertime employment.
So 2006, what is that? Is that like I don't want to call it an internship, but how old are you and what's your position?
I'm 23 years old. They hired me as they call it a SLEO2, a special law enforcement officer. So you have every police power while you're working on duty, but you leave your gun at the station when you go home. So you're never a cop when you're off duty. So it's more or less just like a summertime cop gig. It was only meant to be for the summer. But from that moment on, I never stopped being in law enforcement. I went from one department to the other until I got hired full time.
So you get hired full time in 2008. Tell me about how it is on the East Coast in terms of, do you have to go to an academy? Where is it at? How long? What do you do?
So my first academy in 2006 was 8 weeks. It was 6 days a week. We're there 10, 12 hours a day. You're cramming a bunch of stuff in for the summertime employment that a normal police academy would have, like a 24-week academy in 8 weeks. You didn't learn everything, but you learned the gist. So when I became a police officer down there, I was one of 14 guys that I graduated with that I was placed in a police car Most of the other guys got put on a walking beat or on four-wheelers on the beach. I was in a police car, so I was making motor vehicle stops. And after my first month, I went from day shift to midnights, and that's where my career kind of started off a little crazy.
Yeah, so fair to say that you were a proactive officer.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Was there a particular crime that you like to deal with?
In the beginning, it was just, I'm new, I'm writing traffic tickets. It's kind of cool, right? That's what cops do. But then when I got into violent, it was narcotics. And just growing up around drugs, I just wanted to do narcotic work. I wanted to go after the people that are tearing up families, like the people that I grew up with and watched die from heroin and and all these other drugs, because fentanyl wasn't around back then, and if it was very minimal. Just watching people dying nonstop, I was like, it's like real life cops and robbers type thing. Like you're out there chasing these people and you're getting paid to do it.
In the very beginning, you have an incident which I guess follows you a little bit. I don't know if you get quote unquote labeled a snitch or whatever else, but
Can you
talk about that?
Yeah, so I was working midnights in Seattle City, my first month on. I went to this police academy where the director at the time, Schaefer, his last name was by the book. Said, if you witness something wrong, you got to say something, otherwise you're liable. So my first month there, I'm working with this one sergeant, and I'm not going to say his name, but he locked a kid up for underage possession of alcohol. The kid's drunk, bring him to the station. After a little while, I realized that the alcohol he brought in was O'Doul's. It was non-alcoholic beer. So I went up to the sergeant, hey, listen, this is non-alcoholic. He's like, He's like, you got a problem with me putting a couple Bud Lights on this kid? And I was like, guess not. And I'm not thinking much of it, but I'm like, where's he getting Bud Lights from? Well, in Sea Isle, you catch people underage possession, you put the beer in the garage and it gets tossed for evidential reasons or whatever. So he took something out of that and put in with him for the arrest. So I was like, this is pretty messed up. So I end up going out one day with some of the other patrol officers, and they're mother effing this guy nonstop. He's constantly trying to mess with different guys on the road. And they asked me my opinion of him. I was like, I really don't trust him. And I dumbly said what happened. Not knowing law enforcement, not keep your mouth shut, but I didn't really have to say nothing, but I felt like I should. And it turned into something more than I thought it was going to be. I had a guy I really respected at the time. He was our PT instructor at the academy. He comes up to me, he's like, listen, this guy has been doing this for years. I think you should talk to the prosecutor's office about this, but if you don't want to, I understand, we won't mention this again. This is probably going to follow you to your next department. You're going to be labeled as something, but I'll always have your back and I'll tell these people that you did the right thing. So now I'm on the phone with the director from the police academy. I'm like, hey, listen, I witnessed something. What do you think I should do? He's like, if people know about it, you got to talk about it now. So I got wired up with the prosecutor's office, Cape May County prosecutor's office. I met them in like a marsh area. They put a wire underneath my shirt. I'm supposed to go into work and meet up with the sergeant. He doesn't show. Next thing you know, they put me on a wiretap, put a bug in my ear, and I'm calling this guy, trying to get him to tell me. I'm like, listen, the prosecutor's office is questioning me about this stuff. What do you think I should do? He was like real vague, and he just kind of ended the conversation. I think he knew what it was. He ends up losing his job. So my first month in, I'm getting wired up by the prosecutor's office, snitching on a cop that planted evidence on somebody. And I was like, what in the hell am I getting myself into here? And I was like, I'm just a summertime cop. I'm a rent-a-cop, more or less. And I'm taking a sergeant off the road and he's getting fired.
A couple questions about that. So you mentioned that, that kind of followed you a little bit, the stigma. What was it? I mean, people were like, I can't believe you're a snitch. I can't believe you turned on one of our own. What was that?
Lack of knowledge, probably.
Yeah.
The next department I went to, Summers Point, didn't really follow me there. There's a really good department. I met a lot of good friends, still have friends over there. Didn't really follow me there, but when I got hired in Vineland, it came up because my background investigation packet asked me if I've ever been part of an official police investigation. Well, I was never a target, so I said no. Well, somebody knew that sergeant that got fired from Sea Isle in our department. They said that I was involved in something. Next thing you know, they're thinking about not hiring me because I lied on my application. I didn't lie. I just didn't think it was relevant. So then I had to explain myself to the chief. And how are they not going to hire me because I ratted on friggin' a crooked cop.
Yeah.
You know, so I ended up going to the police academy anyway. But my first year or so there's a couple sergeants in that department that didn't really, wouldn't even look at me.
Really?
It was old school mentality, and just like some of those guys, just like, don't know if I could trust this kid.
Where do you think your moral code came from? I mean, most people in that situation, a lot of people would just go, not my gig. I don't want to get involved. Where do you think your moral code came in that you...
My grandpa,
yeah,
always do the right thing. You know, if you lie about something, it compounds the lie. Just come up front. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Like, there's no reason to keep lying about something. It's a revolving circle. So if you tell the truth, you have nothing to worry about. And I have a clean conscience knowing I told the truth. I wish I wasn't put in that. He should have never put me in that situation. I would have never even said anything or known about it if he just put Bud Lights on this kid and didn't say nothing to me. But he implicated me in that. So for me, I had to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned that the one guy said, hey, this guy has been known to do this for years, and nobody reported him up to that
I guess
point.
they tried, but he was like this with the chief.
Oh.
So it wasn't until this outsider kid from Buena, New Jersey came in and just tore everything up.
Okay, so 2008 you get hired on. Obviously 2006 you're kind of a, special law enforcement guy. 2008, but in 2010 kind of the shit magnet starts happening.
It starts happening, yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about your officer involved shooting.
Yeah, so my first shooting, I'm working midnights. About 2 o'clock in the morning, we get a call for a home invasion. It's my call. We go there. It was a migrant family. They were targeted somehow or another. The door wasn't broken, so somebody had a key to get in the door. They go in, they pistol whip the victims. They're there to steal cash. Migrant families mostly have a lot of cash on them. They don't have bank accounts, back then anyway. So I'm dealing with that report. The detectives are in interviewing, and then around 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, another call comes out with another home invasion a couple blocks from the station. Little girl calls her friend hiding in a closet and says, people are breaking into my house. So me and my childhood friend, who's now a violent police officer with me, we go pull up to the residence, close to the residence, get out, and start walking up on foot, trying to find the house. And here comes 2 guys with ski masks running out of the house. One takes off left, the other one goes right. I go left after the kid. I'm chasing them, and I don't claim to be a fast guy by any means. I'm wearing 35 pounds of gear, and I'm chasing this kid. And I'm still a kid myself. I'm 25 years old, pretty good shape. And I'm chasing after him, and he's running, and he's got a handgun in his hand. And when he turns like this, I let a shot fire. I wasn't going to give him a chance to shoot at me first. After that, he put on the afterburners, and he smoked me. He went around the corner and went behind the house. I tried following, and I had a shepherd jump out at me that he woke up when he jumped the fence. But we had a lot of guys in for the first home invasion, so now we set up a perimeter, and we had this kid locked in pretty good. So we called in for a canine. While we're waiting for canine, I just shot at somebody. I have no idea what's going on. Like, I'm kind of like panicking a little bit. Mm-hmm. I go to the victim's house and I escort them out of the house and bring them up to the ambulance. So I'm still working the scene. The officer that gets there, Billy Bonnecue, who's one of our canine guys at the time, he was about to get promoted to sergeant that morning. He gets called in for this dog job. It starts on leash and rein, and his dog Cliff finds the guy and bites him. So here I am, just shot at somebody. My sergeant comes up to me. He was like, "You need to go to the hospital and go get checked out." And I was like, "Well, I did twist my knee. My chest is a little tight, obviously. Like, I just shot at somebody." I get in a police car with my buddy Selby, and he's driving me to the hospital, and he's doing like 110 miles an hour. I'm like, this guy almost shot me, and you're driving like this. So we're gonna get in an accident. I'm not even gonna make it to the hospital. So he's like, I didn't know who to talk to at that point. There hasn't been a shooting in my department up into this for quite some time, and I was a little nervous because how does this process work? Where do I go from here? I didn't hit the kid, so like it was a clean miss, but I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I went to the hospital, I got checked out, and I come back to the station, and we had a captain the administration back then, you didn't really talk to him. The chief had an open door Friday, but the one captain that comes walking by, he got in a fatal shooting a couple decades before where he shot and killed somebody, and he looks at me, and he shrugs me off and just walks away. And I was like, you should know how I feel right now. Not really, you know, but kind of snubbed me. And I was like, you know, what do I, my chief was cool with me, but back then, 4 days later, I was already interviewed by the prosecutor's office, given another gun and fitness for duty, and we had to talk to a shrink to make sure I was good to go back on the road. And then from there, my fourth day back, I back to the road like nothing ever happened.
But they did have you go to a shrink then?
Yeah, our department was always big on fitness for duty. If you get involved in anything big, send them to, you know, a psychiatrist to make sure they're mentally okay to go back to the road.
Any stigma about that back in the day? I mean, a lot of the old guys are like, you know, don't do that, stuff your feelings down.
No, our department was pretty young at the time, so it was kind of like, well, no, we had a lot of older guys, but there was nobody really to go off of. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do at this point. But 4 days later, I'm back to the road. So couldn't have been that bad if I just went right back to the road.
Yeah. Okay. There's some other incidents that you get involved in. You're going to obviously talk about this, but tell me about, you're 25 years old. Have you given any thought about the chance that you may have to pull your gun and kill somebody?
Working in Sea Island, Summers Point, I had 1 or 2 incidents where I was like, oh my God, this might really happen. You know, guys shooting at somebody and we barricade, we talk him out, he hands the shotgun out the window. Mm-hmm. That was my first time like really wondering like, wow. Didn't really pull my gun out too often down the shore or at all. I come to Vineland and it's like a weekly thing. You're pulling your gun out. And it shows in my use of force reports because back then, if you point your gun at somebody, you're doing a use of force report for it. That's the way our department had things going. So it was a couple high-risk stops a night sometimes. You just never know what's going to happen. It's a very, very busy town, especially in the middle of the night. That 3:30 to 2:15 shift always seemed to be jamming. It was a different animal. It was completely different.
You end up going to street crimes in 2011, served there for about 2 years. What are you doing?
So I served in street crimes for 3 years.
Okay.
From 2011 to 13. Sergeant that was in charge of it brought me into it. It was just a proactive unit. We're out there just trying to lock up as many people as possible. It's more street level stuff, some bigger narcotics investigations, but just your street level narcotics, gangs and stuff, we're just a thorn in their side. We're going out there, we're making arrests. If you're doing something wrong, street crimes is the guys that are going to be the ones that lock you up. You know, out on patrol, I made a name for myself a little bit because I was getting 100 plus arrests a year, my first 2 years there. I just like being busy. I don't like being, if we're slow, it's boring to me. So if I can go out there and lock somebody up, it gives me something to do. But I never like being tied up with a prisoner. So like, if you get a domestic, you're stuck with them for a while. And then you hear these calls going on, like, man, I wish I was at that call. Back then, I would have done this for free. You know, it was a lot of fun being a cop back then, until you start getting involved in things and you realize, like, this ain't that much fun no more.
Yeah.
So, but it was just a lot of search warrants, residences, cars. It was a lot of fun.
But even then, you're still going through some stuff. So take, for example, you ended up having to shoot a dog. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we were on a narcotic search warrant. I was a diversionary guy. Me, my partner Jimmy Day, and my sergeant Chris Landy, we were to go into the backyard to be a diversion while they come through the front door. We go back there. I hit the door with the ram. As I hit the door with the ram, here comes a pit bull, comes running right by me. Next pit bull comes, a little bit bigger, and he decides he wants a bite. And he latched right onto my leg. Well, my partner, Jimmy, shot the dog dead in the chest. It ate it. I dropped the ram on his head, and I stand up, and I'm shooting down on his shoulder blades to make him let go, and he wouldn't let go. So I had to put it on his forehead and let one more rip, and he fell. I shot a couple more times when he was on the ground. I heard ceasefire at one point, so I realized to stop shooting. It hurt pretty damn bad. But the guys in the background that are on the perimeter, they're thinking we're in a gunfight. Another shot goes off inside the house. Another guy shoots at another dog. Friggin' that dog comes running by me, jumps over the top of the dead dog. It was chaotic, but it was. I think we got under 35 grams of marijuana in that house and a dead dog. I go back to the station after going to the hospital. I had to get rabies shots the whole 9 yards because they couldn't test the dog's head because it's mush. So my chief was like, you all right? And I was like, man, it's part of the job, right? And he's like, that's what I like to hear. So I was off the road for a couple of days until I healed up and then back the road again.
Do they treat shooting a dog the same way as shooting a person or shooting at a person?
They do now. Not as severe back then.
Yeah.
I wasn't even interviewed by the prosecutor's office about it. It was just kind of like one of those things that happened.
So I thought it was interesting. So what you just said, was that specifically for marijuana?
It was just a narcotic search warrant. They were there for whatever reason. We were just there for perimeter and backup.
Yeah.
It was somebody else's case.
But inside you found marijuana?
They found, I didn't because I went to the hospital with the dog
right.
bite, but I think they got under 35 grams of marijuana on that house, which is not a very big charge back then.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I just find it interesting, this all, marijuana is not a big deal and it's not, it's not a crime and everything else.
Well, lo and behold, they were juicing this dog up with steroids.
Yeah.
I get back to the station, I'm limping on crutches because I just got bit, and the suspect's sitting there looking, and he's like, he bites hard, right? I'm like, he did. Not no more. Your dog's dead over this. But I felt bad in a way because the dog was just doing his job.
Yeah.
He was protecting his house.
Right.
I'm an intruder in that dog's eyes. So it sucks for that part, but it's just part of the job.
Yeah. How about the bodega?
So we're working a Christmas parade one night, and we get a call for a robbery in progress. My sergeant, Chris Landy, and Chicky Martinez, another guy in my unit, they show up first. They go through the door. Me and Selby are street crimes. We pull up as they go through. They're already in. And as we're getting out of our car, we hear shots firing, and they get into a gunfight. And that's the first time I really felt tunnel vision, because I go through the door and I saw a guy crouching around like this with his hands, and I'm drawing down on him, and it's my sergeant. My mind heard gunshots, and I see him, and he's going through his own shell shock, with just happening. They're taking rounds inside of there. So that guy jumps out the window, tries pulling the trigger on another officer that was coming, and gun jammed, I guess. And they get him in the backyard of that bodega. And Billy Bonacue's dog ended up biting that guy, and we got him under arrest.
Describe your tunnel vision. I've been in situations where I've had that tunnel vision happening, and it's like you can only see this far, just kind of peripheral. But describe yours. How was that?
Mine was fixated on one object, and everything else was kind of slower. I saw everything else, chips, everything around, but I've never been in the store before. So I don't know if it was tunnel vision just because it's the first time going in there and something severe just happened, or you go into somewhere new all the time, you're like trying to pan around. I didn't have a chance to pan around because I saw a moving object with a gun, and my mind just went blank for a second. And it was only a split second, but I felt every bit of it.
Mm. You end up going to canine. Why?
I grew up around hunting dogs, pointers, and watching a dog work was awesome. And now being in this department where we had 2 canines, and we're up to 3 or 4 at this point, I watched, these dogs work, and it was amazing. They get to take this dog home. They're a cop on 4 legs, and they're way faster than us. Their noses are freaking so much better. And, I'm into narcotic work. I was like, why not? I would love to do this. I used to be their decoy all the time. Like, I'd love getting bit by the dog with the sleeve on. It was very, very interesting to me. And my grandpa used to train bird dogs for a living, and he was pretty good at it. So I got into working dogs, and now I'm thinking, it's in my blood to work a dog. I want to be a canine officer. So I put in for it in 2013 or 2014. They were putting on a unit. So in 2013, I put in for it, and I was one of 2 guys that got the gig.
Tell me your philosophy of training dogs. I know other canine officers feel like it's a dog, it's a tool, and like, for example, some canine officers, the dog is outside, and and then when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. Other canine officers, like, the dog's in the house with you, it's part of the family. What's your philosophy?
I grew up with my grandpa with bird dogs. Said the bird dog, his fun is going in the woods and hunting. That's where he's like, don't make your dog a house pet. I felt the same way about my work dog. I tried bringing him in the house at one point. He was a bull in a china shop. He just would wreck everything. He just wasn't the kind of dog that would just sit around doing nothing. So he was an outside dog, but he slept inside in a crate. He was crated at nighttime. So he was in my basement. I have a finished basement in a crate at night, and outside during the day. He's a shepherd. He's long hair, like not long hair, but a thick coat. He loved being outside. He loved being in the snow. If it's super cold out, he was inside in the crate, but the house pet thing wasn't for me.
Okay. Is it tell me time frame wise. So basically, you have your first in custody death in 2015. This is also the time of all the civil unrest going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your first in custody death in 2015.
So in 2014, you had a bunch of things happen with the civil unrest. New York City, I can't breathe. Ferguson, hands up, don't shoot. You had all these things going on. The political climate with police officers and stuff. It's like you weren't doing anything wrong, but what happened over there in the Midwest trickled over here, trickled to every police department. We all felt it. So we all felt what was going on over there, and I felt bad, for those officers that were going through it, because I'm like, this must be really stressful for them.
Okay, so you got all this civil unrest going on, and basically it's trickling all across the nation with police departments. So in 2015, you have your first in custody death. What happens?
So I was working day shift at the time with my dog. I got put on day shift. I'm set to be married in June. So March 31st, 2015, I'm working the road, get a call for a guy screaming in the middle of the road on this in Center City. And I'm thinking to myself, what could it be? We just had a double homicide there two weeks before. Maybe somebody's upset about their friend passing away. That's what I'm thinking going to this call. So I got called as a backup officer, being a canine. I show up first and I walk up to the scene and I see a guy leaning on a fence, a black male leaning up against a fence, and he was breathing really heavy. So he's kind of like over top of the fence like this. So I saw a couple guys sitting off to the side, a couple Spanish guys. I'm like, hey, you know what's wrong with him? No, don't know. Okay, well, you could tell right away they're lying to me. So I see him leaning up. I go up to him. I put my hand on his shoulder. I'm like, are you okay? And he shook his head no. And I was like, you want an ambulance? He looks like he's hyperventilating. He's breathing heavy. So he shook his head up and down, yes. And I call for an ambulance. Tell him this guy's hyperventilating. At that point, he turns, realizes I'm a police officer, I guess, and just walks. And he walks like hand over fist like this, just pumping his fist right to my police car, right to the back of the police car where my dog's in the cage. He starts punching on the cage on my police car, punching at the door, punching at the cage, and goes down for the handle. And I'm like, I don't know if this thing's unlocked. Like, I don't want the dog coming out and biting this guy. He's obviously having some kind of episode. So I grab him by his shirt and his arm, and I walk him over to another car. One of the Spanish guys starts yelling, get him off my car. That's my car. I just got it fixed. Get him off my car. Next thing you know, he just starts flailing. And the other officer shows up at this point. He's a big guy too, like 6'3". Starts flailing at me, trying to kick me, punch me. So I'm an unarmed self-defense instructor at this point. I know how to work my body pretty good. I'm not great, but I'm proficient. I take him to the ground. And back then we were trained in an arm triangle, which is a compliance hold, just make him involuntarily fall asleep. I knew at that point he's on something. I'm thinking excited delirium, drugs are a factor for sure in this guy. So I was like, I'm not trying to put him under, I can't breathe. This is all going through my mind, what New York City just had to deal with. So I'm like, I'm not going to freaking really cinch him up and do this. He's spun out of my control, and now he's facing me, and I'm on top of him. And he immediately grabbed my radio on my duty belt, and he's pulling it to him. And I couldn't break his hands off. And he starts working his way across my duty belt while pulling me into him. So at this point, I start punching him. I start punching him in his face. He's not feeling a thing. He's able to work his hands over to my gun and get both hands around my handle. And he's pulling it in, and I couldn't break him free. I'm trying to rip his fingers off. I'm punching him. The other officer's punching him. I think at one point I tell him, shoot him. My gun is actually coming up out of my holster. I have a level 3 holster. The hood's down. It's coming out. And I'm hearing the clicking, and I'm fighting this guy for a good minute or so. It's not working. I said, watch out, the dog's going to come out. I try and hit my door pop, and the door pop's not working. Now, my dog's got 2 bites under his belt at this point, but I've never trained with fighting somebody on the ground and having a dog coming up and biting. What if he bites me? Like, he's still green, is what we call, right? He's still trying to just get it. I've only been on the road for like a couple months with him. I'm losing this fight. He's about to get this gun out of my holster, and I'm doing everything I could to get it for me to get away from him. It just wasn't working. So I told the other officer, go let him out of the car. Go let my dog out of the car. So I'm pushing down on the holster, punching with this hand, just trying to keep it safe. Dog comes running around, immediately jumps in the fight, bites here, there's nothing to grab onto, jumps over top of him, bites his arm, and with that, he was able to rip his hand off my gun, and I was able to rip the other hand off and posture back and get up. But at this point, I'm exhausted. I was fighting with this guy for a good minute and a half, most likely. It emotionally drained me, but physically drained me as well. So we have a crowd forming. They're all video cameraing us. The one guy's like, I got this all on camera. I was like, I hope you do. Like, I'm glad. Like, I don't have a body camera. I would love to have this on camera. Tow truck driver shows up. He's talking crap. I think he just got there, probably didn't see the whole thing. You know, other officer showed up and they cuff him. I put my dog up and I couldn't control my emotions. I walked behind the house. I didn't want to see all the guys I work with watch me cry. I let out. I was shoulder shaking. I was just the emotional dump that came out of that, realizing I could have got killed here. I left that scene. I called my girlfriend or my fiance, my wife to be, told her what happened. I called my old trainer, the one that helped me train my dog, thanked him for training and helped me train an amazing dog to just save my ass. I went to Wendy's and I got him a burger. You know, you did a great job. I went back to the station and a captain comes up to me. He was like, hey, the guy just coded. I got to take you to the hospital. And I'm like, coded? They're like, yeah, he passed away. I'm like, what? So now I'm thinking, how did this guy just die? Was it the drugs in his system? Because he's obviously on drugs. Was it my punches? You know, couldn't have been the dog bite. He tagged him here and tagged him, bit on arm. That couldn't be it. But now I'm like, this guy is a black dude. I'm a white guy. This political climate we're going through right now with politics and the media, this isn't going to be good for me and my family. This is not going to be good. And I was scared. Go to the hospital. They took everything I had, everything down, almost my underwear. The state police came and took, and my wife picked me up. And it was a pretty tough time for us because we got a lot of negative media attention on this nationally. Not as big as those guys, thank God, in other departments, but it was, I was going to my, I had different police departments watching my house for me because within a couple days, the National Hacker Group Anonymous ended up putting they started sending cyber attacks. They put a video up demanding they release our names. I was scared. Like, I was just trying to help this guy. He passes away. I have no idea why, but I'm guessing it's the drugs. And now I'm wrapped up into the same thing that I felt like Ferguson was doing, or happened in the Ferguson. I'm thinking riots are coming to our town and everything. I was thinking everything, the worst case scenario is going to happen.
And fair to say that, you know, you're kind of on the news, you're on the media, and then something, I can't remember which incident happens that kind of takes you off the...
Yeah, so Baltimore had a big incident happen with in custody death, Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray, yeah.
Okay. So it seemed like that the media was more interested in Baltimore City than Vineland, New Jersey. Yeah, it kind of took the heat off me. You know, unfortunate for those guys that got involved with that down there. That was a terrible incident too. But it kind of took the national media attention off. Locally, I heard about it for years. Guys I would encounter on the street, you're like, oh, you're that guy, you're that cop. So it followed me for the rest of my career.
Mentally, let me ask you a question about that, because it's not like you shot him, you killed him, right? I mean, it's just, hey, ultimately, drugs, whatever it happened, he ends up dying. Did you have any mental residual from that? Did you feel guilty about that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I questioned a lot. Why wasn't me there? You know, why did I have to go there? I didn't want nothing bad to happen to him. I didn't even know who he was at the time. I find out after the fact, after he passes, and I realize that he's, you know, I'm not going to call him a bad guy, but he had his run-ins with the law in our department, but I never dealt with him personally. A lot of our guys in our department knew of him or dealt with him. He's a strong dude, and he tried taking my gun from me.
Okay, but in a situation like that, how did your department handle that? Did you get, you know, like for a shooting, you're required to go talk to a counselor. Any requirement for this?
Yeah, they sent me for a fitness for duty. So I had to go up to Ballackinwald in Pennsylvania, just outside of PA or Philadelphia, and talk to a psychiatrist about my feelings. As I get up there, my wife calls me, or my future wife, she's my fiance, says, your sister just put a video out on YouTube bashing you. And I was like, what? So I looked it up, and me and my sister had a little falling out prior to this. So I guess when the media attention started hitting, she said that I called her and was like, you need to take that down. This is not good for me in this case. It's going to look terrible. And she was like, I'm getting people threatening me because I'm your sister. She's living in some of these projects within our town or the town next to us. So she ended up taking it down, but me and her kind of stopped talking at that point. And she's my little sister. You know, I have a lot of regrets with all that, you know, but at that time I was pissed. I was like, I'm going through all this stuff and you're making it about you right now.
Mm-hmm. And as if you don't have enough stress in your life, the prosecutor ultimately wants to charge you.
Yeah, the assistant prosecutor, I found out through some guys over there that he didn't believe I was justified in using the dog. He didn't believe. He's a criminal defense attorney that got appointed to be a prosecutor. And
okay, wait a minute. Tell me how that works. Tell me how that works. That and I get it. Sometimes defense attorneys become prosecutors and everything else, but you know, a lot of times it's prosecutors that become defense attorneys, and you kind of get a little bit of equilibrium there. But if he's just a defense attorney and he becomes a prosecutor, that seems like they're kind of anti-cop from the beginning.
That's the way it made him feel. You know, right when this happens, he wants to Mirandize me. Like, why do you want to Mirandize me? Because you think I did something wrong. You want to catch me. You want to be able to use my statements in court. So we didn't give a statement. I had an attorney at the time who said, we are not giving a statement if there's Miranda. And I had friends that are over there, and obviously they were friends, but just friendly acquaintances, not like we talked regularly. After all this is done, they were like, we're sorry you had to go through this. We didn't think you did anything wrong, but the administration felt otherwise, and they were pressing it. So I got to go to a grand jury on this, and I'm looking at official misconduct, conspiracy to commit official misconduct, all these charges that they're going to present to the grand jury for something I was just trying to help somebody. And it turned south pretty fast, but it was out of my control. So I had to go through the whole grand jury process. And then halfway between that and grand jury, my attorney at the time was a pit bull. Like, he's just, you know, screw you guys, we're not doing it. I was like, I need to get this thing done and over with. I need to go more political. So I got another attorney. So I used a different attorney that had more connections within the county. And I didn't want to fight with the county. I wanted to get it over with and do it the right way. And he comes to me and said, I think you should testify on your own behalf in grand jury. And I looked at him, I was like, how many cops have you had do this in your career? And he said, I've been practicing law since the 70s. You'll be my third cop. And I was like, the third one? And he's like, I can't tell you why I think you should do it, but I think you should do it. And I trusted him. So I had to go in front of a grand jury and explain the entire incident to a group of strangers that are going to ultimately decide whether I should be charged with indictable offense.
How was that?
Talking about bubble guts.
Yeah.
I am nervous. The attorney, you can't even have your attorney in there with you. He could be outside. If you have a question, you can go outside and talk to him. But I've been to grand jury, not hundreds, but I mean close to 100, 50, 60 times with all the cases I've had over the years. You always go to grand jury, present it to. Now I'm going there and telling them a story where I ultimately might have charges placed against me, but I got to tell them why they shouldn't do it. I'm just explaining the story to them. It's pretty easy. And this comes full-fold. If you tell the truth from the beginning, you never have to worry about fixing a lie, right? So I never lied about this right from the beginning, so I had nothing to worry about. So going in there and telling them what happened wasn't that hard, but leading up to it, I felt like I was having a heart attack every other 2 days. The anxiety and the stress was crushing me. And I'm thinking to myself, when this is over, I'm going to quit being a cop. I don't want to do this no more. But my dog just saved my ass. I was like, they're going to give him to somebody else. I can't give this dog up. Let me try and work through this. So right before grand jury, a trooper passed away while on duty. He was my academy mate, and we worked together in Sea Isle during the summer of 2006. And I was at his funeral feeling sorry for myself about everything I'm going through until his hearse drives by me. And I realized I ain't got it that bad. He can't even talk to his wife or his fiance with his newborn baby that's not even, or a baby that's not even born yet. And I'm sitting here sulking about things I'm going through. It's not that bad. So it kind of changed my mindset as to feeling sorry for myself and everything I'm going through to try and get this case over with.
How long does it take the grand jury to clear you?
About 16 months before it went to grand jury. Yeah. So I was off the road for that entire time.
Whoa. So now wait a minute. But after you testify, does it take 16 months?
No, they decided within a week or so after that. So leading up to the grand jury, from the time the incident happened, it took about 16 months for the grand jury process to be over with and for them to no-bill me.
Wow. So what you're off the road. So what are you doing?
So at the time, the chief gave us a month off, me and the other officer, because we're both suspects through the prosecutor's eyes. So we are put on the desk. Now, this kid I never worked with before. He was on the opposite platoon. He was working overtime shift that day with me. He's on the opposite platoon, so he's riding the desk and I'm riding the desk. So we're sitting there every day. Just people come in for gun or permit for applications for guns, hand them go over to the records, taking calls at the front desk. It drove me nuts.
Describe that to me, though. You have this incident. You've done everything right. You get put on desk duty for like 16 months. Does it almost feel like a punishment?
It did, because I had a captain that would come up every single day saying, "Hey, I'm putting you on the road today." Well, no, knowing that he couldn't do it, he was just a jokester and he was always making a joke. So it was giving me a false sense, like, this guy's a captain, he's going to put me on the road. I can't wait to get back out there now. It just never happened. Well, the other guy that's riding the desk on the other side, he ends up getting involved with prescription medicine. He ends up stealing medicine from a drop box in our department, gets caught, he gets fired. This is all happening at the same time as my civil suit and everything. I'm like, this guy's getting fired and he's not a bad guy. I think this incident really rocked him and he was prescribed medication and he just started to abuse it. So he gets fired. So now I got to go through the civil suit that's going to happen. But
Okay, wait a minute. Let's clarify this. The civil suit has to do with him getting fired?
No, the civil suit the family of the deceased files a wrongful death lawsuit.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you, before we get into that, let me ask you this. When you testify in grand jury and it takes like a week, right, for them to come back, what are your feelings? I mean, because to me, it's like waiting for you go to a criminal trial and you wait for the jury to come in and say the guy's whether you're innocent or guilty, and you're like, holy crap, right? How is it for you?
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So after several months, about 8 months riding the desk on the road, the chief comes up to me. He's like, "I see you're getting pretty stressed out over here. Do you want to go out to the police academy?" And the guy that was running the police academy, Lieutenant McCann, I'm buddies with him. I was like, I would love to go out there. So next thing I know, I'm off the desk. I'm out at the police academy. I'm painting doors. I'm cutting the grass. We started building stuff for shooting. We built a moving target, on pulleys. I learned how to shoot with both eyes open. Before I was always like just squeezing off rounds. I became more proficient with the handgun. So I'm out there. It was working out for me in that sense, but it felt like a punishment for a long time. But the chief wasn't allowed to put me on the road. The prosecutor's office says he is not allowed to go on the road until this grand jury thing's over with. So his hands were tied. It wasn't up to him.
Okay. Now getting to the civil portion, is the civil trial goes on for years, right?
Yeah, there's years of motions. This thing it drags on for a good 9 years.
Okay. 9 years of having this black cloud over your head. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that mentally? Because obviously you've had a lot of stuff that's happened up to this point, and you're going to have more stuff as we're going to talk about. But 9 years of this cloud over your head going, I don't know how this is. And I'm assuming they're going after you personally and they want to sue you. And
yep. $10 million the lawsuit drops for.
Are they suing the department as well?
Yeah, municipal liability, department, officers, such and such, Jane Doe 1 through 10, so they could add more people when they find more people's names out. It's years of motions. And I didn't even find out that I was getting sued until I looked at the paper. My department never told me they got a tort claim saying that we were going to be sued. So I looked at the Daily Journal in Vineland and saw that there was a lawsuit filed.
Yeah,
nobody told me about this?
Yeah, you found out through the newspaper. Yeah. So when you find out, you go back to the department and go, what the hell, guys?
Yeah, the captain at the time was like, I should have told you about that. We found out a couple weeks ago. I'm like, well, that would have been great. So, and then now I have to get a defense attorney for the civil part.
Out of your own pocket?
Well, it would have been, but the city hired, through the insurance carrier, I was appointed an attorney. So I met this guy, didn't know him from Adam. I brought my own attorney too, thinking that the PBA would cover it. At the time, we didn't have a really good PBA coverage, so I wasn't going to ask my PBA to front the bill for years of motions. Could have cost who knows how much money. So I was kind of forced to trust this attorney, and he said something to me that stuck with me for a while. He said, if I can't get the jury to find you justified, if I find a jury to say you did nothing wrong, then the municipal liability should be, we shouldn't even have to do it. Right. So he filed, there's years of motions, so he filed a thing called bifurcation, which separated municipal liability from what I did that day. So when it goes to jury, when it goes to trial, the jury can't hear about all my internal affairs complaints before they hear about what I did that day. Just, they're gonna hear about what I did and decide if I was justified in that. And we got that motion passed for us, but a lot of motions before that.
There's a lot of stuff we're still going to talk about, but one of the things, and I apologize, maybe I'm getting confused, but is this also the same case that the city council has to vote on?
Yeah, in the future in 2021. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that now. So, to me, as a police officer, you get sued, you're covered under, qualified immunity, under your department and everything else. But in this situation, explain to me how the city council gets involved and how they're voting on what? So
gearing up for trial, and it was supposed to happen in January of 2022. Punitive damages can come in after a jury finds that I did something wrong. So the jury can go back and say, punitively, this officer, because he did this much money's coming out of his pocket. So assets, house, cars, the whole 9 yards would come in. My attorney tried, and he went to the city council and said he wants to indemnify me. So they would pick up the tab if we had a bad jury verdict. So I had to go and explain myself to city council and wait for them to decide whether they're going to cover me punitively, if not, or not, if the jury decided I was wrong in that incident, civilly.
Gosh, that's interesting. So what's at that time when your attorney goes to the city council, what's the political makeup? Are they pro-law enforcement, anti-law enforcement?
They're very pro-law enforcement.
Okay, so you think you're all right?
I think I am, but at the end of the day, we're facing a $10 million lawsuit, and they have a whole city they have to answer to.
Right.
They're all elected, so they all want their job still, and they don't want to waste money, and they don't want to do it for every officer. So my attorney said, listen, this is a case-by-case thing. If you think he did nothing wrong, listen to what he has to say, and then decide on it. So
you have the civil thing going on, but there's also a federal case. Is that the same thing?
That's the same. It's a federal civil trial.
Same thing. Okay. Yeah. All right. And if stuff isn't stressful enough, about the same time your sister passes away.
Yeah, she passed away suddenly. I don't want to talk too much about that, but just out of respect for her family. So she passed away suddenly in 2016. Had to tell my parents. I broke it to them. That really sent them off the deep end, because back when I was working at Sea Isle, I find out my parents, or my mom more specifically, upgraded from just pills to heroin. So she was arrested, and I got a call about it. So they kind of hit it. When you lose a child, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Right. So, they went rock bottom at that point.
And when did they end up passing away?
They passed away in 2019, 7 days apart. Yeah. Both of them were overdoses. My mom was an overdose. My dad was ruled a suicide. I found him the next morning. He was overdosing. He went to the hospital for 7 days. After 7 days, he came out, and he never woke up the next day. So,
when the personal stuff goes on that doesn't have anything to do with the police department, does the police department still offer those types of services to you, where you can go talk to a counselor, talk to a psychologist?
I never did for my personal matters.
Okay.
But I'm an open book. I tell a stranger how I feel. I tell them my whole story. But I also had a great group of guys at work that, knew about how I grew up, knew about my family, knew about all the stress I was going through with work. And this was just the beginning of the stresses, going on, several other shootings and stuff.
Yeah.
But I had a good core group of guys at work, but more importantly, I had my wife at home. And, it sucks bringing home stuff to your family. But at the time, my little guy, I met my wife, she had a 6-year-old son, I adopted him. He's my little guy, like from 6 on, he's in college now. But I had an outlet. I talked to her. I mean, I probably nagged her more than I would repeat myself over and over again about stupid things I was worried about that really meant nothing. And she would try and reiterate, like, this isn't that important, but it felt like everything to me at the time. It felt like the whole world was crashing down on me when I was going through that whole thing for that grand jury. But I had her.
Yeah, so you're of the philosophy, because a lot of officers go, I'm not going to talk to my spouse about this at all. I'm going to keep it. But you're the philosophy. Let's talk about it. And
if you don't talk, and you keep things in, it's going to drive you nuts. It drives me nuts alone, freaking talking about it, And it goes through this, like, you go through years, like with my parents, for years with them dealing with addiction. When I didn't hear from them, it was a good thing, right? It's because, like, oh, they're okay. The minute they call, it's like, hey, you got $20. Like, it got to the point where, like, yeah, if you need money for gas, I'll meet you at the gas station. I'll put gas in your truck, but I'm not giving you a $20 bill.
Mm. Yeah.
And my dad would just smirk and be like, all right, I understand.
2018, you had some stuff going on again. Friend commits suicide.
Yeah. I'm working the shift. See on the call screen, make notification to such and such name. His brother tried committing suicide, said the name. And this is a guy, when I was growing up in my early 20s, I became friends with this guy and his brother. And I didn't have a family where we didn't celebrate Christmas. Me and my brother, we're still tight to this day. We would go to, like, a friend's house for Christmas. We would go to another friend's house for Christmas. He had something going on with maybe a girl he was talking to at the time, or he was working at a restaurant. So I was hanging out with my buddy. We would go to parties. So I never celebrated birthday or Christmas, nothing like that growing, like my late teens into my early 20s. I never celebrated it. So here's this kid who I was pretty tight with. He ends up committing suicide. And I went to the hospital to confirm it was him. And I saw him sitting there laying there dead. And it's the second time I cried on duty. Like, it's just the emotions you get seeing that. And I knew that I couldn't let another officer go and tell his brother that he died. It had to be me. I saw that on the call screen for a reason. I never looked at the call screen to see what calls were next, because at this time I'm canine. I'm just reactive. I'm not proactive anymore. So that was a pretty tough time. And his aunt actually worked with us in the PD as well. So it sucked. Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, how hard is it to tell essentially another friend?
Way harder than telling a stranger. You tell, in law enforcement, you're constantly doing notifications, death notifications. When you're telling somebody their brother just died, but you're friends with both of them, it's rough. Ugh. Not nearly as rough as what the family had to go through, but just for me, being a law enforcement officer, like, it sucked. But I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I wanted me to be the one to tell him.
Yeah. Okay, so again, in 2018, you have another officer-involved shooting in Buena, New Jersey. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, in Buena, Franklin Township was covering Buena Borough at this point, and they called for a dog for a track. Some guy was shooting it at cars in a building in a pretty, like a business area. There's like a couple hotels, Dunkin' Donuts, Wawa. I get there, and I'm driving there. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Go track a guy that's shooting, but it's not in me not to go, right?
Why do you have that hesitation that you don't want to go?
I don't want to get involved in nothing no more. I'm just getting over this thing, but I'm still got the civil suit floating around. I don't want to bite nobody no more. If it comes, it comes, but I'm also the type of guy where I'm not going to shy from something. So I pull up, and state police is there, and there's 2 canine officers there that I knew of just from working the road. And I look at Franklin Township, and they're trying to brief me on what they have. And I was like, this side of the road is state police, right? That side's yours, this is state police. So I asked the troopers, I'm like, are you guys tracking? They're like, we're waiting for teams. Teams is their SWAT team. They do tactical tracks. So while we're waiting, couple rounds go off really close to us. Pow, pow, pow. Oh, shit. So we're thinking we're getting shot at by this guy in the woods. Don't know where the shots are coming from. There's 3 jurisdictions with 3 different comms going on. Like, it's total chaos. So I'm saying shots fired on the radio to our dispatch. They're calling Franklin Township to see what they know. They're calling state police to see what they know. I hear a street that didn't ring a bell, so I knew it had to be this retirement community because I grew up in this town. So I drive in there. I see a troop car. I yell. I'm like, where you at? And we're in the woods, and they're searching this kid. It ended up being the trooper shot at the guy who had the gun. And I was like, all right. I walk the guy out of the woods. My internal affairs comes walking up because they show up. They hear shots fired. And I was like, it ain't me this time. Like, don't. And they laugh, and I, put the dog back in the car, and on the way I go.
It's not you. So I'm assuming a little bit less stressful at the time. But so that happens in May of 2018. And in July of 2018, you have your second in custody death.
With force used, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens?
So I'm working an overtime shift. And mind you, I'm a K-9 officer, but I always like to work extra work. Like, more money's better, right? So planning on going to dinner that night with my wife and my in-laws. I'm working the shift. I ended up getting a restraining order, and I haven't done a restraining order in years. So I bring the lady back to do the paperwork. They get a call about a guy that's an emotionally disturbed person, EDP we call him. So the sergeant calls and says, bring your dog over here, I need you. So I show up, and this guy's got a t-shirt. He's got no shirt on. He's got a t-shirt wrapped around something, and he's insinuating it's a bomb. And he said, you need to shoot me, because if you don't, I'm going to pull this thing and we're all going to blow up. We played with this guy for 30 minutes. I pulled the dog out right away, tried to get the dog to friggin' make him back off, made him more agitated, put the dog back in. I'm only 40 yards from this guy. I've got binoculars trying to see what he's got inside of his shirt. The sergeant, he's been a cop one or 2 years less than me, but he's a good cop, right? But he made sergeant. I go over to him. We start talking. We're whispering back to each other. What do you see? What do you see? And I was like, I can't dog this guy unless he does something. If he takes off towards the crowd that's forming, I'm going to send the dog. Or if he comes at you guys, I'm going to send the dog. We played with him for 30 minutes, but he made up his mind. This was a suicide by cop all day long. So I brought the dog back out. I opened the lead up to 6 feet, and I'm getting the dog animated. The guy picks the sergeant who's got the long gun, UMP, and he just charges at him. As he charges, I sent the dog, and sergeant fires 3 rounds, strikes the subject. He falls, and my dog grabs a hold right on his ass. And everybody's panicking. I go up to the dog. I'm friggin' trying to break him off the bite. The guy's turning around, punching the dog. Drops the t-shirt. Lo and behold, it was garden shears wrapped in the t-shirt. He was just trying to get us to shoot him. We had an ambulance on standby, and it was one of those things where, like, we had a large crowd forming, and they just watched the police shooting happen, and they're angry. We load the guy up in an ambulance. He goes. I knew he expired because I watched it happen. And now I got to almost talk to this crowd that hates police now, right? They just watched somebody get shot, and I got to try and talk to them, not in an aggressive manner, but like, what you saw was messed up. Stick around for the prosecutor's office. They're definitely going to come. Both sergeants leave. They go to the hospital as well. And I just get on the radio and I start calling people for mutual aid. Called every jurisdiction around, tell dispatch, we need backup here. We're getting overrun with these, and there's only 6 guys working the road on that day. So it was pretty wild. The guy passes away. Sergeant goes to the hospital. I have K-9 guys come in. Once the prosecutor's office shows up, and that one prosecutor that wanted me charged for the first incident, he shows up. When I see him, my time to leave. So I went to the hospital myself. Because now I know I just used force on another guy who's passed away. And I know this is going to be a whole thing again. So I just want to distance myself from them. I go to the hospital because now my chest is freaking pumping up. Like, my anxiety's through the roof. I'm like, here we are again, involved in something. I call my wife, like, cancel dinner plans. I was like, Armstrong just shot somebody. And she's like, what's that got to do with us? Well, I didn't tell her that my dog bit him too on the radio because my body camera's on. So, so we had to deal with that. And then my attorney at the time, I call him, tell him I was involved. And 2 days later, he told me I was a non-target witness, and I was free to go talk to the prosecutor's office about the incident.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, because there are people that are of the belief, don't say anything without an attorney, keep your mouth shut the whole time. What have you learned through this whole process?
You should always keep your mouth shut around people you don't know, but you can't keep things inside. So being involved in shootings, like even with his shooting, we had a debriefing after where we brought in like cop to cop, and they were sitting down talking with us and stuff with our spouses. And it was kind of like he was afraid to say something because his attorney's saying don't say nothing. Because when you get involved in something where you use force and somebody gets injured or unfortunately dies, you're looked at like a suspect. So you have the same rights as anybody else not to say something, but you got to talk. So like for me, I was lucky I got my wife at home with some of this stuff, some of my buddies at work. You really shouldn't, you're not going to go and tell the prosecutor, like, hey, I did this, as soon as he shows up. No, you're going to avoid him at all costs. Even your administrators, just like, you're not really talking to them, and they shouldn't really be asking you either. You go through something traumatic, a lot of people want to know things right away. Well, no. I have an attorney.
Yeah.
I have an attorney, and he advised me not to say nothing.
Yeah. But it must be nice having your wife at home, at least you're...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me, and maybe you have an opinion on this, what is the mentality? I'm assuming this whole crowd is gathered around and they see this guy acting crazy. Maybe they don't know the situation that he says that he has a bomb and everything else, but, you guys shoot him and all of a sudden the crowd goes crazy. What is it? Is it just anti-law enforcement?
Yeah, it's that. Maybe not. They don't know the whole thing. They don't know the whole story.
Right.
So going back to the guy, with the first incident I had with the tow truck driver, he showed up after everything happened and he's talking crap. Like, if you don't know everything, everybody's quick to jump the gun and just blame, right? People are screaming, it was a water bottle. Like, there was no water bottle over there. Like, you're just making things up because they can't. Some people don't want to believe that the police are doing the right thing. But in my heart and what I've seen is that's just a small majority, the minority. Like, the majority of people really do believe the police are doing a good job.
Yeah.
But when you're working the job, you don't feel that way.
2021, you end up getting promoted to sergeant.
Yep.
Why do that? Why don't you just kind of fade into the woodwork and go, man, I'm not going to do anything. I still have the civil suit hanging over me, and I got to stay out of the situation where I'm going to get, maybe another incident.
Yeah.
Why do you promote?
Well, I'm still working the dog. I took the test once to see where I placed in New Jersey, our town, the civil service test. You got to take a test to see where you place on the list. The first time I just took it to take it when I was working street crimes. I wasn't ready to be a sergeant at all. Me personally, in New Jersey, if you have 3 years on the road, you're eligible to take the test. I didn't think I was ready to be a sergeant at 3 or 6 years on the road. Here I am further on in my career. I've been involved in a lot of things, been involved in quite a few critical incidents, and I took the test again, but I really paid attention and I studied for this. My wife helped me study. I really cared about the guys in the department and the guys underneath me. And I wanted to be able to lead by example, right? So being a sergeant, I'm like, pay increase, right? Who doesn't want that? But it comes with more responsibility as well. I felt like it was my time to try and help the younger guys and get more money while doing it.
Did you ever have a discussion with any of your guys? Once you become sergeant, you got a group working underneath you. I got to imagine you've been in enough incidents and you've been through some stuff that the younger guys are like, that's my guy, and I'm glad he's here.
Yeah, so I had a young group of guys under me. I immediately went to Midnights because now I was one of the senior guys on the road, but when you become sergeant, you're junior, right? You're a junior sergeant, so I'm on Midnights. And now I'm a sergeant side by side with my street crimes partner, Jimmy Day. So, and I got on the 330 squad because we overlap shifts. I got a buddy of mine, Nick Sturkley, and a buddy of mine, Ron DeMarchi. So we're all had our own some good traits from each one of us. Like them with detectives, Jimmy with drugs, me with the dog. So we kind of like jived right off the bat. But yeah, I had a lot of young guys, and I felt like they did respect me for everything I've been in. But I didn't demand respect. Like, if you respect me, you respect me. If you don't, I don't care.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to beg you, nor should you have to respect me. But if you have a question, ask. Or, hey, if we got to go breach this door, I'm going to go in first.
Yeah, because you're a lead by example.
I'm gonna go in first.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Still not over, because you get promoted in 2021, December of 2021, you've got another in custody death. Third one. So what happens?
So I go and talk to city council, waiting to see if they're going to cover me for this punitive thing. For the civil trial that's geared up for the next month. So I'm stressed out. I'm reviewing. I'm off of work for a couple weeks because I'm deer hunting. And I come back to work. I work an overtime shift the day before I was scheduled to come back. So I work an overtime shift the 16th on a gas line detail. They're putting in, gas lines. Well, they hit a water main. So I was stuck there for like 14 hours. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm trying to get home, but at the same time, I'm making time and a half. So I'm like, just take your time. And they're cleaning up, and I see this backhoe just friggin' ramming these stones, friggin' just ramming them. And I'm like, and I drove a backhoe when I was a kid. My dad was in construction, so he let me drive it. So I'm watching. I'm like, man, that thing's strong. It's friggin' rocking these stones. So I didn't think nothing of it. Like, go home, pour myself a drink. Had a long day. I'm not reporting back to work the next day until 6 o'clock at night. So when I get back to work, typical busy shift, like everybody's humping calls. But as a sergeant, you're reading and reviewing reports. So I'm reading these reports that happened the past 2 weeks, and some kid stole a forklift, and then he stole a car. So I called the one officer, and I'm like, yo, what's up with this guy? And I'm looking at his mugshot, and I'm reading, and he's like, dude, he keeps stealing stuff. Like, he's whacked out. I don't know what's wrong with him. And we have a big bar fight around 2 o'clock in the morning, lock somebody up for DWI, a couple for disorderly. One of those disorderlies that just doesn't want to leave the station after. Like, you're free to go. Like, no, I'm not free. I don't want to leave. Like, we had to kick him out of the station. And then about 5 o'clock in the morning, we had a call for a backhoe driving erratically through town at this packaging plant, and it was ramming in the cars. And then the caller says it's now trying to drive into the building. So it's one of those calls was like, well, we're all going to that.
Oh, you got to get up here with me.
I'm coming. Like, something's not right here. So I start driving out to East Vineland, the rural area. The backhoe left that packaging company. So the first officer on scene is relaying all the stuff to us. Said it went eastbound. One of our officers sees it on Main Road, but it goes down like this power line into a farm field. Well, that's my buddy's farm. So I know right where he's going. He's going to Lincoln Avenue. So I get on the radio, go out to Lincoln Avenue and try and intercept this thing. And one of our officers sees the backhoe, and it drives directly into an occupied vehicle driving down the road. So now this call goes from just the backhoe just hitting things to this is serious. So I'm working the road. The other 2 sergeants went home for the night. It's just me and Jimmy Day and our 8 guys. And we're trying to contain this backhoe. And he turns on us. He sees police lights. We have 2 officers get out with that poor lady that was just struck. She's visibly upset. The backhoe is now chasing us back and forth. It was like a cat and mouse game up and down the road. He drives into 2 of our police cars. Just starts destroying everything in his path. He's hell-bent on destruction.
He's going into houses, Jim. We got to do something now.
I'm thinking to myself, how do I stop this? New Jersey's very strict when it comes to deadly force, right? He's driving in occupied vehicles. That's deadly force, right? But now I'm here. He's not driving into occupied vehicles anymore. He's driving into unoccupied police cars. You can't shoot somebody for property damage. So we're getting on the radio. Anybody in that car? Nope. All right. So I'm behind him. I put my spotlight on him because he's now chasing Jimmy Day down the road. Put my spotlight on him. He looks back. It's that kid that stole a forklift and the car. He's wearing the same outfit in his mugshot. So I get on the radio. That's that kid. That's him. He stops abruptly, turns around. Now he starts chasing me. And it's back and forth, back and forth. At one point, he goes and drives directly into a house. So now I'm like, this has got to end soon. We're going to have to do something. He gets out of that area. I thought he was stuck at one point, and I'm thinking the whole time, just get stuck, because as soon as you take off running, I'm dogging you. My dog's going to get you. He's an older dog. At this point, he's like 9 years old, but he's still got a lot of piss and vinegar in him. So I'm calling for backup from other jurisdictions to close down the road. It's 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Luckily, we don't have much traffic on the road. We shut down the whole road, and he drives into a school. And we're in a pursuit at this point. He drives into a school. I flanked him, and I went to the other school because these two schools are kind of side by side. He comes out and almost hits me and almost hit another one of our officers. So now we're running from him again. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know if these tires are gel filled, like, because backhoes, sometimes they are. I've seen this thing already work yesterday, just ramming these stones. Like, my dog's in the car. He's trying to get every car that's got lights on, he's attracted to it. He's trying to take us out. Goes around the block. We have an ambulance at that house with that lady who's now being treated. I said, if anybody's in that ambulance, get the hell out now. He's coming back. Lo and behold, he goes right to the ambulance, flips the ambulance. They got out in time. So he drives down the road, chasing me. I lost sight of him, and Jimmy said he just went into Penn Lincoln, which is a retirement community. They're all double wide trailers. The trailers are built very cheaply. And the first word that came out of mouth was fuck. Because I know this is where it's going to have to end, because he's going in there, and if he hits one of these trailers, he's going to kill somebody. So I pull in. Jimmy's saying he's hitting a car. He's doing this, he's doing that. And I'm trying to keep a little distance because I got my dog. And when I come around the corner, I see this guy in the backhoe drive directly into a trailer. And I get on the radio. I said, Jimmy, we got to do something now. And what's that mean? We got to shoot this kid. We have to shoot him. We have to stop him. So I went in reverse. I parked my car. And as I get out of the car, I hear Jimmy on the radio saying, I hear screaming. Well, the people that were in that house were screaming because there's a backhoe in their living room, right? I start chasing after the backhoe. As I'm running through the yards, Jimmy's truck is getting pushed by the backhoe down the road. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, he's still in that car. He pushes that backhoe all the way into another trailer as I'm chasing behind. I run up, and this is where all that training came in. I was off the road for a couple, for 16 months. I was out at the police academy, learning how to shoot with both eyes open, learning how to shoot moving targets. And I run up to the backhoe, don't even remember aiming. I just punched out, and I said, don't shoot now, shoot now. It's a driveway. I know the area. I hunt those woods with some of the farmers. I know if I miss, my round's going to go into the woods. It's not going to go into a trailer, right? All this is running through my mind as I'm going up. And I double tap. He dropped. I thought he ducked. I got closer. I put two more in. He fell on the governor, on the gas pedal, and just revved, and it turns, and he crashed into a light standard, and the whole backhoe rocked, and it came to a stop. I got fired. Fuck! And I was like, if you watch the body camera footage, it's again, my first word is fuck. Because one, I know I can't keep doing this job. I didn't want to shoot him. The last thing I wanted to do was shoot somebody, but I had to. And I get to the backhoe. I climb up into the backhoe. I'm trying to press on the brake just in case it goes forward more. And I tell them, the other guys, some of my younger guys, get him out. So they pulled him out. Tunnel vision happens again, right? It's an emotional dump. I couldn't find a key to save my life to turn this thing off. Jimmy gets up into the cab. He sees it, turns it off, get down. My first thing is we got to start checking these houses, start looking around at these houses.
Check houses. Check houses. District 8. Multiple gunshot wounds too. Please send EMS in here now. We're all the way down. I need guys in here with me. I got to start checking these houses. CPR. CPR. You guys got gloves? CPR.
I couldn't even form words. Like the emotional dump that happened was so intense. It was like in 2015, like that, what just happened? Like this doesn't happen, right? Like, so I immediately start losing my composure. I walk away. I was like, I gotta call my wife. This happened right in the same neighborhood as my mother-in-law. So now my first thing is like, I know I gotta go to the hospital. I know I gotta get out of here. The whole state police and AG's office are gonna come down for this investigation. It's a fatal shoot. They cover everything. But I tell my guys, start doing CPR. So I walk over, I tell them to start doing CPR. To this day, I can't picture that kid's face at all. It's like, when I try and think about it, it's pixelated. Just his face part. Everything else I could see. It's probably just my mind not letting me see it. So I go back to my car. The lady who, the back that was going inside of her house, she's outside now, like crying. And I'm crying like a baby. I just killed somebody. And she gives me a hug. And it was almost like my grandma was sitting there giving me a hug to comfort me. So the chief shows up and I looked at him. I was like, I had to. And he looked right at me. He's like, you always do the right thing. Don't worry about it. And I got up in the ambulance and I went to the hospital, and, you know, that was my last call. I knew from there on out, I can't keep doing this. I have a 2-year-old at home now. My son is a senior in high school. You know, I got to think more about my family. I know I'm going to grand jury again. My mind is not in this shit no more. Like, I'm done. I knew I did everything right, but just all these emotions are coming. I'm angry at people. It was pretty rough. It was 5-6 days before Christmas, right? It's a lot was going on in my mind at that time.
How does this one hit you? Does it hit you harder because now you've actually taken somebody's life?
So it's hard to describe. So it was something that had to be done. And if I didn't, I knew he was going to crash, right? You shoot somebody in a moving vehicle, it's going to crash. It's one of the things you don't want to do is shoot at a moving vehicle if you don't have to. He was going to crash 15 more times if I didn't. So I had to. I knew how he died. When that other thing first happened, I didn't know how he died. Mm-hmm. But then I also, during that time, I was more worried about public backlash. And I knew that I was 100% justified in everything I'd done. I was like, wait until the public sees what the hell I just watched. Like, they're just going to say, what else were you supposed to do? You know? But it didn't make it any easier. My kid is the same age. My oldest is the same age as this kid I just shot. I immediately feel awful for his family. I called a buddy of mine that's a priest. I asked him for some guidance, asked him to say a prayer for the mom and the rest of the family, because I don't, to this day, I really don't know. There's probably some medical issues on top of narcotic use that made him do this. But he's only 20 years old. Mm-hmm. You know, and my kid was 20. They're just about to be 20. So it was kind of tough.
From this incident, are you worried, or does anything happen where they're going to go after you again?
I wasn't too worried about it, but I knew there was going to be a long process, because I went and gave a statement to the state police. They didn't want to Mirandize me, so I was like, well, they pretty much know. Now we all have body camera, right? There's a lot of video and stuff. Mm-hmm. I felt comfortable going and giving my statement. But I still had the civil suit laying over top of me, right? This trial's supposed to start in three weeks, and I just shot and killed somebody. How am I mentally going to be okay to do that and testify about all the stuff that I did before, when now I have another potential charges coming against me? Because you never know what you're going to get with a grand jury. You don't know how the AG's office is going to present this. You know, I have really no idea how this was all going to unfold, even though I knew that I was good.
So, in the grand jury decides they're going to, for this one, right? They decline charges for you.
Yeah, after like 20 months.
20 months?
Yeah. Right when I gave my statement, a lieutenant from the state police says, she came up to me after I gave my statement, and she says, just so you know, you're good, but this is going to take a long time.
Why?
Because the state of New Jersey is backlogged on everything, so they say, or they just don't put enough resources into clearing these cases up fast enough. So one, it's not fair to the family of the decedent, but it's also not fair to the officers or the department. because now they told me I could go back to the road. They didn't forbid me to go back to the road.
Okay.
She said I would just take the holidays off and figure things out from there. I went home and I told my wife. She looked at me and she's like, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to keep doing this to you. I got a little guy now, but I was really pissed off because this kid made me shoot him and he took my career away from me. That's the way I felt. I didn't want to stop. There's still a lot of fight left in me, but I just couldn't do it. The amount of anxiety and stress that comes after the fact, and I'm sitting there getting mad at friends that didn't call me after, when lo and behold, it was just me. Just your natural emotions are like, it just screws with you for so much.
Yeah.
So many different days I would be happy and then sad. I hosted Christmas that year. I didn't talk to nobody the entire time, and I tried not to drink because I knew if I drank, then I would feel, I don't know, worse, I would say. But like, I'm trying to enjoy Christmas with my family, and I was just reserved. And I'm not a reserved person. I'm very, very happy and upfront, but it just took the steam out of me because now I got a civil suit on top of it and possibly another civil suit because I'm guessing that they're going to sue me as well. So this is going to be another drawn out process.
And do they sue you?
They never did.
That incident happens the end of 2021.
Yes.
You end up retiring in 2024, but ultimately, what are you doing in between that time and then when you retire?
So I took a couple months off. When you go through shootings, it's weird because you start having like flashbacks that aren't flashbacks. Mm-hmm. I'm out bird hunting with my dog in late December after the shooting, just to get out and be in the woods. My shock collar wasn't working and the dog wanted to do his own thing. And he just took off running. So I started chasing after him and I'm running with my shotgun to get up, and I was literally running down that street again after that backhoe. And I had to stop and go, whoa, what the hell is that? And then this happened in a town that I worked in, but I also lived next to. And it happened right next to where my mother-in-law lives, where we frequently go to. So it's a constant reminder going by it. So there was a lot of emotions weighing on me. And then when I went into the station, I did take off. I went into the station probably February, and my chief at the time, Cassiano, and the deputy chief, Triantos, they bring me into the office, and Cassiano says, this might be your time to leave, right? And I was like, and I didn't want to tell him, yeah, because the whole process of leaving is like secret. Like, I didn't want to go back to the job. Some guys try and go back. I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to, but I didn't at the same time. So I looked at him and I got emotional. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I got to wait for all this to subside, and I got to be cleared before I can put in my papers. But thank you for having my back. And my department, my city administration, 1,000% had my back with all of this, including the pension process. So, but to answer your question, I started working on a buddy's farm that spring. That civil trial got pushed back because of COVID. So I didn't have to force myself to go testify in a federal civil trial about the 2015 incident. So I had a little time, but now I'm sitting on a tractor cultivating. I don't know if you know anything about cultivating. It's very boring. Long days, you're looking down, but I have all this discovery because that attorney that I was forced to use from the city, we become friends. And he was a very open attorney, and he said, I want your help with this. If there's anything you can bring to the table at all, we're going to work together. So he sent me all the discovery. So I'm sitting on a tractor, listening to depositions, transcripts, listening to tape statements, and the amount of anxiety I got from that was crazy. I honestly thought I was having a heart attack again every 2 minutes. Like, I'm just sitting there, just listening to this stuff nonstop, drinking way too much on top of it when I got home. Friggin' just listening to these people talking shit on me, painting me out to be this murderer, when all I was trying to do was help that guy. But now I'm still dealing with the shooting where I just did kill somebody. It was pretty wild.
Are you seeing any therapists at this time?
Yes. So after that fatal shooting, I did go and see, before the department sent me to see a fitness for duty guy, I just went to one myself. And it turns out to be the same guy they sent me to back in 2010 on my first shooting where I missed the kid. I go to that doctor.
Okay, I'm curious. Let me ask you a question about that doctor. Because some therapists have no idea what law enforcement, have no idea what EMT, just don't know what first responders do. Does this guy?
He does. That's all he does.
Okay, so then he knows.
He used to practice a wide variety, children and everything, but his later years until now, he only does police-involved shootings or in custody deaths. He only takes on those officers.
Why did he specialize? Do you know?
I think he just found a love for trying to help these guys out.
So that's got to really help that he...
Oh, yeah. So a buddy of mine who I went to the academy with got in a fatal shooting in the town next to us in Buna in April of 21. And I was friendly with him, and we talked here and there. And I called him that morning I shot that kid. And I was like, you wouldn't believe it. And I told him, and he was going to this doctor as well. So I felt comfortable knowing that somebody I knew went to him. So now I'm going to go to him. And the first time I go and talk to him, I tell him just what I told you. And he says, you're done, just so you know. And I was like, I knew it, but I don't want you to tell me that. Like, not the first time. Like, this is January 2nd or something. I'm like, don't tell me that. I'm not ready to hear it yet. Like, can you let me get a couple of treatments here and then tell me I'm fucked up? Or are you just going to tell me flat out now? But he told me that when you're involved in a fatal police shooting, it's in your own community, it hits you different. And he said he has some people that have gone back to work, but he never suggested it.
Do you, now that you're retired, do you still see him?
No. Once I retired and I got my pension and I was about to be hired into a new position doing something else, he told me that my treatment was complete and left it an open door. If I ever needed to call him, I have his cell phone number, or if I want to come in for a session that, he'd take me right in.
Tell me how the civil trial ends.
So we go and pick a jury. I'm up in Camden, New Jersey for this federal civil trial. Mind you, I'm not cleared from grand jury yet for the shooting. So this happens in October. We go into the trial. I'm sitting in this trial listening to all these people painting me out to be a horrific person, because that's how they're going to get their money, right? But at the same time, I do feel bad for the family, right? Their family member did pass away, and they believe that it was from the law enforcement officer that did it, right? That's what the media told them. That's what their attorneys are telling them. They have some bigwig pathologist comes in, Dr. Michael Baden. He did O.J. Simpson. He did Michael Brown in Ferguson. He's done all these big, he's got an HBO TV show.
Yeah.
He's a pathologist for hire, is what he is. He will tell you anything you want to hear for money. And it came out during trial. And he was on stand for about 6 hours. And in my eyes, my attorney made him look dumb. As smart as he was, he said things that just struck the jury a little weird. Well, I asked one question about superhuman strength, because when I fought that guy trying to take my gun, I have never encountered strength like that. I'm strong. He was stronger. I've never experienced finger grips that I couldn't break off of. And a pathologist says that superhuman strength is just something that police officers make up when they use force against black people to justify their means. And for me, he could have said everything right the entire time, but the jury saw right through it. I mean, why would you say that? And he smiled when he said it. Now, the judge struck that for the record, which was good, but I was like, it was a clown show almost. Like, they wanted $10 million. I didn't even want to go to trial. I actually asked the mayor of our city, can we just settle this? He was, if you want to settle it, we'll try. They offered $800,000 before the trial started, and they said no. And we went through 9 days of trial. My wife was 9 months pregnant during that time. So on Friday, she went into labor. The judge said, you can go home, but be back Monday morning. I'm like, okay. So we had our little girl, because after the shooting, comes January, got a lot of time on my hands. I'm not working. There's a snowstorm. There's whiskey. What else is there to do except for make a baby, right? So that, lo and behold, my little girl gets conceived during this complete mess of my life. My wife still blames me for the colic that she got because of all the stress we were both under. Because this wasn't just stress for me, too. Stress for my wife.
Yeah.
My family. She's seeing me go through these struggles, and I'm trying my best to keep going, but it's tough, right? Not that I ever thought about not going, but just dealing with all this, and constantly feeling like you have a heart attack. You're having a heart attack. This panic, anxiety, right? Which I never thought I would ever have, but it turns out that shit's real.
Yeah.
So have my little girl go back to trial, a couple more days. They go in deliberations, and I asked the judge, would it be okay if I went home during deliberations? Because in my mind, I would rather be with my wife and my family with good news or bad news, opposed to being in Camden and getting bad news or good news and having to drive an hour home. And then my attorneys text me, no calls. We're done. So I was like, holy shit, it's over, right? It wasn't completely over because they appealed the decision, but the jury found that they believed me because I was telling the truth. Everybody else that got up on stand, their stories changed from depositions or their interrogatories to when they were testifying. I never changed my story because there was no reason to change it because it is what it was. Mm-hmm. I was there for one reason. It went bad. It sucks. I'm sorry. Like I didn't want that to happen, but it did.
Oh man. Okay, I'm not going to ask you a question that I normally ask at the end because we've already covered the family. So we can say that I'm sure law enforcement affected your family, right?
100%. Yeah.
How about this? Can you look back when you started your career to now? How did law enforcement affect the way that you see people?
There's not a room I don't go into where I don't look around and wonder which guy is going to give the worst problem. If I go somewhere and I see somebody a little animated, if he comes at me and my family, how am I going to have to take him out? I honestly, there's not a place. I go to Disney World and I see people walk by, and I look at people a little different. You know, not in a bad way. Just how am I going to preserve my family at this point?
Yeah.
You know, I gave the job up. I went through that process. I don't carry no more. You know, how am I going to handle taking care of my family? I can still carry for personal use, but not for job wise and stuff. But it changed. I never looked at the negative in people before I became a cop. You know, I got in a lot of fist fights growing up and stuff, but it was mostly bar fights and, you know, spiffs here and there. But I never looked at the negative in people, and it made me look at more negative than good for quite some time. And it's starting to come down now. But I still look at other people, I'm like, I don't trust you. I just don't trust you.
Would you do anything different with your career?
No. I think the way it all went down, it was all in God's plan. He put me in certain situations for certain reasons. Maybe being in that thing in 2015, he put me in that situation because he knew I was going to be good, but also taught me how to shoot better leading up into the 2021 shooting. Because had I not hit that kid, maybe he would have killed somebody.
Yeah.
You know, it had to be stopped. I don't think I would change anything, you know, other than if I could take the stress out, that'd be great. But it comes with it, I guess.
All right, last thing. Let's give a little shout out.
Sure.
Your dog got awarded an award. Can you talk about the dog award, but can you talk about this organization that helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. So in August of 2022, before I retired, I'm waiting on the grand jury. My department said we're gonna retire your dog. Obviously, why keep paying for a dog's vet bills and food and stuff when he's not working no more? And he's 10 years old. So we retired him, and I found out about this organization, Paws of Honor, and they take care of retired dogs' vet bills. So I put the application in, sent it, and he was accepted. That's awesome. I thought this is great. Not that my dog's unhealthy, but just in case something happens, he's going to be covered. He's got prescription food as well. So they're paying for his prescription food. They asked me to go to a couple of events just to show face. So I went to one down in Sea Isle. That's pretty cool. I started my career there, right? I'm still real tight with all the cops. A lot of the cops there, they're old timers now, but you know, obviously I got rid of the crooked sergeant back in the day, so they still talk about me a little bit.
Wait a minute, is that true?
It's 100% a fact. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You know, there's only a handful of guys that are still there from back then, but I just ran into one this summer, and they were like, well, that story still comes up. So I go to this event for Hurricanes Heroes. I meet this guy, Marshall. He was a Secret Service guy. Back in 2014, his dog stopped a intruder at the White House. I tell him, he ends up taking on my dog, and he's like, we're going to cover his vet bills through Paws of Honor, so we're going to sponsor him. Asked me to come back the next year. So I go back in 2023. This time I bring my wife, my daughter, and my dog, right? I bring a dog, show some face. A bunch of people are there, cops I know, and the guy from Paws of Honor shows up, the one that's running it, his name's Tim Fleming, and the guy who runs Hurricanes Heroes is Marshall. I was probably screw up, Mararchy, real good dude. Tim says, hey, we want to do a commercial highlighting some of these dogs' crazy stories. We'd like to hear some. I was like, I got a couple for you. So I tell him about 2015 where a dog saved my ass, and then another one, which we didn't talk about, where one of my guys was stabbed in the face in a fight, and I went in and the dog bit the guy, and we put him in cuffs. So he was like, that's exactly what we want to hear. That's a great story. So I'm going through the appeal of that federal civil trial, waiting for the appeal to come out, and I get a call from Tim. Hey, we want you to be on this commercial. Are you cool doing it? So I called my attorney, Todd. Hey, Todd, you think it's okay? We're waiting for this appeal. He's like, I don't see a problem with it. Go ahead and do it. It's only going to be aired in North Carolina anyway. Who cares? So I go and do that. Well, Marshall, after hearing my stories, put me in for an award. And it's through Animals in War and Peace. They selected my dog. He was one of 7 dogs to be awarded at Washington, D.C. at the Capitol for his actions for the 2015 incident and the 2016 incident, but mostly the 2015 for saving my ass. And then the appeal comes out and we won. All within like a 2-month period. So I'm like, how crazy is this? Almost 10 years to the date that this happened, my dog and me, who were painted out to be villains, are now going to be honored nationally at Washington, D.C., which I've never been to before. Like, you cool with bringing your dog down too? I'm like, absolutely, he's coming with us. So me and my wife, we went down. She's like, you want to bring the kids? I was like, nope, I just want to enjoy this. We don't know what the kids are going to do, if they're going to cooperate. Let's just go down together. I had some guys show up, my chief, a couple captains, Billy Bonnecue got me into the unit. He showed up with his wife. My brother comes. My brother never leaves this damn state, and he comes down to D.C. to watch me get this award. And so my dog got a Distinguished Service Medal, number 9. So he's the 9th dog in U.S. history to ever get this award. So it's kind of like a pretty cool closing chapter to such a horrific incident that happened back in the day.
Yeah, nice way to end your career.
Oh yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I also was retired at this point, so like I had 0 F's given. Like I'm gonna tell everybody about this, and now I get to celebrate it. So we went down to DC and we had ourselves a pretty good time. A week later, I find out my dog has cancer. They said you might want to put him down or try the surgery. So Paws of Honor, Hurricanes Heroes, I'm like, it's going to cost a lot of money. They're like, just go ahead, we'll pay for it. They paid for the surgery. Got me 2.5, 3 months more with my dog, with my family, and he got to walk out of this world with that gold, or that medal around his chest. We walked him into the vet, had some good friends, including that trainer to help me train my dog back in the day. He showed up. He's the chief of police in West Effort, Mike Franks. He was there to see him off. And it's like the ending of the Cinderella story, It was such a crazy career, crazy, upbringing, but I got to end it on a high note. And hopefully the stress goes away. I still get flare-ups here and there. Even if I deny it, my wife will tell you different. But it was a good ending to a terrible thing that happened. But I could walk away with it with a smile now.
Yeah. Thanks for the interview. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.